Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the review for the brand new independent Era 2 premium medium tank, the AMOLAD, which is a matter of life and death, right? This is the other Iron Maiden collaboration tank that's come out, and it's the tank that's from one of their album covers. So if you're thinking, oh, why is it not a British tank? It's basically a Centurion hull with a T-72 turret and a Chieftain Mark V gun. And it's the tank that is, they modelled it completely off of the tank that was on one of their album covers. I'm not sure which one it was, but that's why it is how it is. It's basically a mercenary tank because, you know, it's a part of like 3 different tanks put together. So what's the AMOLAD like? Well, the AMOLAD is, do I think it's worth it myself? I don't really think it is. I think it's okay, but it has things like 6 degrees of gun depression that really holds it back. And also things like the Chieftain Hybrid 120 being a thing at Era 2 as well is another one. Because that tank is basically just this tank, but way better. Because it's just as quick, its gun handling is just as good, its DPM's insane, and it's got 10 degrees of gun depression. It's also a smaller silhouette as well, which means it's a little bit harder to spot with true vision and stuff like that. So realistically, if you're going to get an Era 2 Premium, you're going to pick up the Chieftain Hybrid 120. Now, I know this is a medium tank, and the Chieftain Hybrid 120 is a heavy tank, but once you get in towards Era 2, and especially in Era 3, the tank classes don't matter, really, to be honest, when it comes to playstyle. Each tank has their own playstyle, and it doesn't matter if it says heavy tank, you don't go brawling in a Chieftain Hybrid 120, because it's definitely a medium flanker, even though it's a heavy tank. It plays more like a medium tank, whereas this definitely wants to play more like a medium tank. It doesn't take hits very well. I don't know. I didn't really enjoy the AMOLAD whatsoever, to be honest, and there's a lot of other tanks in Era 2 that I would much rather have. This is a complete flip of the Megadeth tanks, right? Because the Senjutsu T55, or the TO55, is a better tank than the M67 Zippo, the soldier on. Like, so if you were in World War II and you're a World War II favourite, you're going to pick the Senjutsu up. But if you were in a Cold War fan, you're more likely to pick up the price aside, right? Because the price is ridiculously high. If you were going to pick up a tank from the collaborations in Metal Fest in Cold War, you're probably going to pick up the Peace Cells, because the Peace Cells is a fantastic tank. This is just sort of it's fairly mediocre. I don't know. I just didn't really enjoy it, to be honest. And this is the tank as you go around it as well, just to have a look at it. So let's have a look at the statistics of the AMOLAD. So as you can see, you've got a 950 horsepower engine with a 68.7 kilometers an hour top speed and a 34.6 kilometer an hour reverse speed. Now this tank does reverse very, very quickly, so that is something to bear in mind. That if you need to get out of dodge backwards, you can go backwards pretty quickly. You've got an 18.65 horsepower per ton ratio, which is pretty good, which means you do hit that top speed pretty easily. Add to that, you got 1.6 on soft, 0.8 and 0.7 on terrain resistances. You don't struggle to ever hit that. If you wanted to, you could definitely get faster by running the traction system, but I feel like you want to sort of make other stuff better. You got 20% internal fire chance as well, by the way, which is quite high. They tend to be between 10 and 20%, so 20% is the higher end of it. You got 2.6k hit points, which is a decent slab of hit points to use, to trade with. You do run out pretty quickly, though, depending on what you're facing. You got 38 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed, which is quite quick, but it still feels, I don't know, just because of probably the length of the tank, it feels a little bit slow at times. You got 392 meters of still concealment, which isn't that great. And to be honest, it's Cold War, so you're not really going to set up a tank that's got this high a camo for camo, really. You got 460 meters view range, which I wish was slightly better, but it is what it is. Again, you can physically see things. You don't always have to set up for view range in Cold War. You got 34 degrees a second on the turret rotation, so again, bear in mind that the turret rotation speed is a lot slower than the hull rotation. I say a lot, it's slower by 4 degrees, so you might want to make that better if you can. You got 1.05 accuracy during rotation, which is not too bad. If you run vertical stabilizers and some of the gun perks, you'll make that a lot better. 14 degrees of elevation, which is fine. 6 degrees of gun depression, which is not good. The 6 degrees of gun depression really holds it back on this tank. It means there's so many positions that you're just not that flexible to use. And it makes it, because it's a tall tank as well, it makes it a right pain. And you really have to overexpose to get the shots off. You've got an 8.5 second reload, which isn't too bad. You can knock that down to about 7.4, I think it is, or something like that. You'll see when we do the fully pimped out stats. Might even be more than that. But again, that's where I feel like the Chieftain Hybrid 120 feels a little bit better. You got 0.31 accuracy in general, which again you can make far better with all the gun skills and stuff. You got 2.98 accuracy during movement, which is not that good, and you want to make better with vertical stabilizers and run and gun and stuff like that. You got 1.8 second aim time though, which is absolutely fantastic and means your gun will be aimed in very, very quickly. You do have APDS, APFSDS, which are basically both the same shell, and HESH. The HESH rounds are something that you want to use on this tank. They are a beautiful thing for the AMOLAD, just like they are on the Chieftain Mark V, just like they are on the Chieftain Hybrid 120. The HESH with 290 pen for 680 alpha is phenomenal against so many tanks in Era 2 that you want to be running the ammo swapper and just melting things with this HESH if you can. You do have 418 pen on the standard APDS, 483 pen on the premium APFSDS, and like I say, 290 pen on the HESH, which is beautiful for 680. You do have 530 base damage as well. You got 1530 shell velocity on the standard rounds and the premium, and you have to note that if you do load the HESH, try not to fire it at any great range, because you do only have 660 meters a second shell velocity, which is awful. So if you're firing at range, it's not going to be very accurate whatsoever with the HESH. And you do have a 55% silver bonus right there as well, so you do make a decent amount of silver with the AMOLAD. And as you can see with the armour of the AMOLAD, this is a lot of spaced armour on the front. So as you can see here, this is a 40mm plate that's welded onto the front of the Centurion hull. Does it help? If I'm honest, it doesn't do that much other than the occasional shot from ATGMs being absorbed in this spaced armour on the front. For the most part, everyone's been pretty much butchering this front hull. I found that it just doesn't really bounce much, and which was, you know, slightly disappointing, if I'm honest. And then you've got the turret, which is a T-72 turret, which has 235 on the front look, and a little. I think it's got a little bit on the inside as well that's curved in. There we go, 90mm, yeah, so 235 plus 90, which is curved in. That's part of the turret front. I'm not sure what that is effectively, but essentially a lot of the tanks that you face in Era 2, which are pushing 450 to 500 pen, they still go through the front of T-72 turrets quite easily, so that's something that goes against it as well as the fact that they can pen this cupola. And in terms of equipment on the AMOLAD, I run Advanced Loader, the vertical stabilizers, and the Advanced Reload. Advanced Reload, like I say, because the HESH rounds are an absolute thing of beauty, and I want to make the most of the HESH rounds if I can, so I use the Advanced Reload so that I can switch to those HESH rounds when I want to abuse them. Got vertical stabilizers to help the gun be as accurate as humanly possible, and Advanced Loader again to make the most of the DPM. Let's put the food in there. And in terms of a crew, I have hidden it in the Ignis, but let's get it into what the hell just happened there, game. Okay. The game's like, nah, bro. You can't have the Ignis crew. Get out of here. So let's put it in the AMOLAD. And yes, so in terms of a crew on the AMOLAD, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Steady Aim, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Trap Mechanic, Deadeye, and Rapid Aim. I run the gun perks to make the gun as good as it can be, because that is the only real, apart from the top speed, it's probably one of the only real good things about the tank is how good the Chieftain Mark V gun is. So on the AMOLAD, it's pretty damn nice, so I want to make it as good as possible. Rapid Aim to make my turret traverse better to keep up with the tracks. Deadeye for the memes, so that I'm setting people and damaging people's ammo racks more often, I hope, because it increases the chance of module damage by 6%. And Trap Mechanic, because it does tend to get its tracks blown off a lot, especially if you get stuck in. And I like to be able to get my tracks back on as quickly as possible. But there's multiple. This isn't the correct setup for the tank. This is just the way I run it. There's multiple ways to run it. If you want to make your track traverse better, you run clutch braking. If you want to try and run camo, you can, and you can run the camouflage, expertise, and silent driving on this tank. If you think this thing gets hammer racked too much, you can run safe stowage. You can run armor angling instead of Deadeye to reduce the amount of damage coming into the tank. If you do actually want to make your view range better, which is always helpful to have, to be fair, you can run situational awareness as well instead of Deadeye. It's completely down to you. It's always down to how you play the tank yourself. And nobody can tell you how to set up your tank other than yourself. We can only help to give you little bits of guidance. So, in terms of the stats when it's fully equipped on the AMOLAD, we, as you can see, have pushed it to 41 degrees a second on the turret traverse. You got 499 view range now, which is pretty decent. You've pushed it down to, okay, it was way more than that. You got a 6.2 second reload now, which is 5.1k DPM. Imagine the DPM when you're starting to pen people consistently with Hesh. Juicy. Your accuracy during rotation is now 0.7. You got 0.25 accuracy, which is pretty nice. You got 1.7 accuracy during movement now instead of the near 3 that it was. And you got a 1.66 second aim time, which is pretty damn decent. And again, you could make other stuff better by just running stuff like you can make this what, 74 kilometers an hour, nearly 75 kilometers an hour if you were to run a traction system instead of the advanced reload. It's completely down to you how you want to set up the tank. But I'm just going to have a quick look at the Chieftain 120's gun stats, because this is the tank that I would say you're going to compare it to the most, because it's got the same gun, it's got a similar playstyle with the fact that it's got that top speed, and the armour works pretty much the same, to be honest, except for the fact that the occasional ATGM gets bounced or absorbed by the AMOLAD. So let's have a quick look at the gun here. As you can see, the 6.2 second reload that was on the AMOLAD is now 5.7 on the Chieftain Hybrid 120, which means it has way better DPM. It's got better accuracy at 0.21. It's obviously got 10 degrees of gun depression. Its accuracy during rotation isn't quite as good as the AMOLAD at 0.8, but its accuracy during movement is better at 0.57, and it's got a 1.53 second aim time. Same silver boost as well. And you've got better view range, you've got mobility that's slightly worse, but you got a better, if you know what I mean, you got better power to weight, so you do hit the top speed way quicker. You got more hit points. The hull rotation's better, the turret rotation's better, just the mobility, everything about the Chieftain Hybrid 120 is generally better than the AMOLAD. So, and this is more likely to come up on discount at some stage than the AMOLAD is. So I would always say go for the Chieftain Hybrid 120 over the AMOLAD. I don't really think that this tank is worth it, if I'm totally honest. But you might watch the replays and go, you know what, I like Iron Maiden. Well, in fact, I love Iron Maiden. I want the collaboration tanks. The AMOLAD's cool. I remember it on the album cover. You know what, we're going to do it, we're going to buy it, and we'll show you how it handles in the replays, just so that you can get to see how it does. So as always, everybody, I will catch you all in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the AMOLAD, and we are on Westfield, and this is probably one of the more average games I've had in the tank. And what we're going to do is we're going to go up the A-B line and see if we can fight in the ridges over here. We're probably more likely going to go to the ridges and fight along the one line bit, the A1, A2 section, because we do not have the gun depression to fight on the ridge that's at C2, C3. We just don't. It's not going to happen. So we've just got to try and get there and then fight whatever comes up that way, because it's one of those things with Westfield in Cold War. It really depends on where the teams go, because sometimes they'll charge the K line, and then you'll find that there's not much going off. But a lot of the time you find our team goes down the 0 line, and then a lot of their team comes up and fights along C2. And then it just becomes really, really awkward. So we're trying to get some shots at this Ignis. We missed the first one on the move, but we do get the second one in for 577. We'll take those rolls every day. And now we are going to go and focus up on what's in front of us. There was a light tank that ran off along there. There's an Ignis over here. And we just see the RDF coming up. We try and snap the shot into the RDF, and unfortunately we don't quite hit that guy. I don't really want to be in this position because, like I say, I don't really have the gun depression for it. So what we're going to do is push up onto the next set of ridge lines so that we actually have a chance. We try and get a shot into the RDF LT, and unfortunately just bad timing there as the T62M1 ended up backing up, so we couldn't quite get the shot into the RDF. Now we're going in on the Brennus, who has another Brennus charging on him. We try and free aim the shot on the RDF, but unfortunately we end up missing him. And now this is where the gun depression is a little bit of a letdown. We try and get a shot into the Ignis there, and we just do viewport damage. We didn't even bounce. We literally just did viewport damage. That was a weird one. Now we're going after this Brennus. We try and get a shot into his cupola. It doesn't quite work, and then we get retracked there by the medium tank. And now we're in the vice grip of a Brennus, which is not a good time. The M60A2 ends up slapping him, which I think actually makes him back up. But I was absolutely boned there, because he had me in the grip of death. And that is where they can just keep machine gunning your tracks, which keeps you pinned, and then they'll just keep penning you with the main gun. So the Ignis goes, "Get down, Mr. President!" We absolutely shut him down. That I wasn't even aiming for the Ignis. He just drove in front of the shot and saved the poor little Brennus there. But I realised that position there we were in is not a good position to be in. We were having to overexpose all the time. It wasn't going too well. So now we're getting some shots with premium rounds into the FV4211 because that's just what you got to do. Aiming for that little spot above on the upper plate, and we get it straight in. He ends up getting shut down by the M1. And now we've got shots into this Chieftain Mark V. We switch to Hesh because Hesh does 702 damage. Oh yeah. When you pen those Hesh rounds, it is beautiful. Another Hesh round slaps into the lower plate of the Leopard 1A5. He's trying to come back in. I'm like, go on then, Leopard. Do it. And we put the Hesh round in for 91 and finish that guy off. We're up to 2 kills for 3.9k damage. The FV4211's coming over. Unfortunately, we bounced off his lower plate. We load the Hesh rounds to go through this guy's side, which we're slapping for 575, which is a massive low roll. Massive low roll. But, okay, we'll take it. Now we've got the FV4211 in front of us and the Brennus. I don't have any hit points to take a hit, so we really do have to be careful. What a terrible shot. What an awful shot that was. Dear God. Aim properly, man. And we're just going to pull back to see if we can get a shot into this cupola of the 4211. But he's now distracted, looking at someone else. So we're just going to come in and try and get the shot. But T-Can ends up shutting him down. We're up to 4.5k damage, 1700 assistance. Only 2 tanks left. There's the Chieftain Mark V in front of us, who ends up getting shut down. And then the medium tank, which is an Ignis, which is running away. We saw the Ignis running down the H line, so we're just going to go intercept. I expect him to be running to go up the 8 line. And if he is, that way we can catch him out and try and get some shots into him. As you can see, the speed of the AMOLAD is pretty damn nice. We're going at 68 kilometers an hour, which means that we can just motor and keep up with tanks like an Ignis. We get a nice shot into the Ignis on the move, and I'm looking at this going, am I going to get another shot into this Ignis? I don't think I am. Oh, apparently I will. Good night, Mr. Ignis. Good night, sweet prince. Good night. And we shut down the Ignis Pagatio there. We're finished with the epic victory. Top of the team, 3 kills, 5.3k damage, that 1543 base XP. Yeah, pretty average game that I've been having in the AMOLAD, the second class. Let's say that it's alright at what it does. It's just not anything spectacular, and for the price of 11,000 gold, I just think you could get better for your money. That's the way. Better for your money in an exact same way as what this tank wants to do, right? And that is the Chieftain Hybrid 120. The Chieftain Hybrid 120 does exactly what you want to be trying to do with this kind of gun and this kind of tank, that this just can't do. That 6 degrees of gun depression is a real limiting factor for the AMOLAD, and it's a bit of a pain at times to use. But you can still use it effectively because it's still got good DPM. The gun is still great, although it does... I have felt that this gun does like to derp a fair bit because, I mean, like you saw in the equipment setup section, I have to run vertical stabilizers on the AMOLAD to make it feel nice, whereas on the Chieftain Hybrid 120, we're not even running vertical stabilizer, we're just running vents and advanced reload and the advanced loader. So this loses that ability to either, you know, make your tank faster with a traction system because you don't have to run the vertical stabilizers, or vents for better DPM, stuff like that. I just feel like it's something you lose out on this gun, and even with vertical stabilizers at times, this gun just says no. I mean, I know that can be RNG, right? But sometimes this gun just goes, no, I'm not hitting that shot ever, mate, sorry. And then you just miss the shot and you go, why? Why did that miss? That shouldn't have missed. That was, okay, thanks, gun. And it can be a little bit troll at times, which is annoying. So as you can see on Fisherman's Bay in this second match, we are up to 3.7k damage, and we're just using this little ridgeline in front of us to keep slapping shots in. We tried to load Hesh to go through the upper plate there of the Type 79, because that's one of the tanks we can pen with Hesh, but unfortunately we ended up getting the shot go way wide and only doing track damage. We're now going for a shot into the RDF-LT, which we slap in. We're up to 4.5k damage, and we're just being careful of that Leopard 1 directly behind us, because that Leopard, well, I say directly behind us, that Leopard 1 that's sitting at H8 is being an absolute pain. He pokes out, because we can see him with the true vision, end up getting a shot through his turret, putting us onto 5k damage. He really needs to go. He is a problem at this moment in time. So we're just waiting for him to poke out, possibly to get another shot in, and at this point it's like, okay, that guy's got 6 HP, he's dead, I'm just going to ignore it. We go for the shot on the Ignis, but unfortunately we end up missing that Ignis, sad times, just waiting for the reload, but we can't quite get the shot on him anymore. We know where most of their team is. Most of their team is in the positions around FG1. So we want to charge under this ridgeline as quickly as possible to get ourselves in a place to start getting some shots into them. Because you can see there's a Mobat here, so we aim up and we ricochet on the Mobat. Now, not quite 100% sure how that happened, but it's sure, fine. I think he pulled back just as the shell was incoming. We get a shot through his back end, just waiting for the reload, and unfortunately we couldn't quite get the shot in to get another shot into the Mobat. There's now the G.I. Joe Wolverine, which we get a shot through his side there, which is basically because you can just about overmatch the side of the G.I. Joe Wolverine. And I thought, oh, you know, I'm going to start slinging Hesh at it because the Hesh rounds will be able to pen it and do some significant damage. But unfortunately, we didn't pen it. We do on that occasion, which is quite nice. Didn't quite see what the damage roll went to. And he is still sat there. So we try and get a shot into him, but it flies over him, which is really quite annoying. Because we have to be careful with shooting at a Wolverine, because the Wolverine is not something that we can pen very easily, because it's got like 60mm of armor that's really well sloped. So you need like 181mm gun to actually overmatch it and pen it, which means most of the time firing our APDS, we're just going to ricochet. So it's very, very awkward. You have to hit the cupola on top of a G.I. Joe Wolverine to be able to pen it. And most of the time, it's probably better just slinging Hesh and aiming for the cupola anyway, because you can pen the cupola with the Hesh, and when you do pen the cupola with the Hesh, you're going to do a significant amount of damage. And if you don't pen it, well, you're still splashing it for 200 to 300 damage, which is always helpful. We've got this FV421 directly in front of us. We put ourselves onto 8.5k damage, just trying to get the kill shot into him, and unfortunately he just gets shut down. Now there's the G.I. Joe Wolverine. We're just waiting for the reload, looking at that cupola, sling the shot in, and just as the shell hits him, he gets shut down by the Brennus. And we finish that second game with the epic victory. 2 kills, 8.5k damage, 956 assistance, 300k made with no silver boost. High caliber, the first class, the Confederate, 1648 base XP. Another decent game for the AMOLAD. And it does make good credits. That is one thing that you can go for it. Just like any Era 2 premium out there, it does make a solid amount. I mean, these ones are literally, you know, these 3 games are all without silver boost. These are just the raw silver earnings of the tank with no help whatsoever for it. And we're on to the third and final replay of the video, and this one we're on Thiepval Ridge. And what we're going to do is something that I like to do on Thiepval in Era 2 is charge straight towards the position at E9, because by doing that you can get under the ridge line, get under the gun line, and start shooting the people that camp in the base. And also from that hill over there, you can get good shots across most of the map, to be honest. And also, if you do have people camping on the hills at C2 and at B3, they also have good shots to cover you as well, which means that if you end up being over there, not quite alone, but, you know, there's maybe 2 of you, you can start to really get some good assistance as well. So we're just pushing up to the ridge line to get to a position where we can start pumping some shots out. We've noticed that there's the Sheridan, the Leopard 1A1 over here, and there's some other tanks in that middle section, which is quite unusual because they're not always there. We get a shot into the RDFLT. Going to poke over again to try and get a shot into this Brennus. As you can see, you really have to come quite far over on the ridgeline to be able to get the shots in the AMOLAD. And it's just really quite awkward to make use of this gun depression, because the 6 degrees of gun depression is not helpful on such a tall chassis, because the Centurion chassis is not a small chassis, and it just becomes very awkward to use. We're just looking for some shots at the Leopard or the Sheridan that are on the opposite side of the map. We can't quite get the shot into those guys though. The T-72M1 must have been the one that was shooting at us earlier on. And the Sheridan actually drives out into the open where we can shoot him, so we slap a shot through that Sherry. Just looking for another shot into him though, and unfortunately we end up hitting our own teammate there. I think we just missed the Sheridan. Would have been nice to actually hit that guy, because leaving Sheridans alive in Era 2 is never a good thing. We are still looking for shots at that Sheridan, because again, I'm concerned about that guy. He is sort of floating about in behind us, and if he decides to come after us with the ATGMs, it's never going to be a good time. But I decided, okay, you know what, I can't keep focusing on this guy. I'm going to have to help my 3 guys that are pushing towards their base. So we see the 4211, so we instantly load premium for 483 pen, because 483 pen does very, very well against 4211s. And they are an absolute pain to pen, as everyone knows. We're up to 2,095 damage, and we are going to poke over to see if we can get a shot into this Leopard 181 in the distance. It's like, hang on a minute. I didn't notice the 4211. I just wasn't paying attention to that section for a second. It's like, oh, hello, Mr. 4211. Don't mind if I slap a shot in. He ends up firing, so it's like, you know what? I'm going to have the opportunity to fire at him. We slap a shot through his upper plate. He slaps a shot through my upper plate, and I'm like, oh, he didn't keep going. I was kind of hoping he would rush us. But we're going to poke over. He's fired again, so we know we've got the chance to get over and possibly not get a shot. We get a shot straight through his side there, which damages his ammo rack. He fires again and misses, which gives us the opportunity to go over, try and track and pen him, which we don't. We end up only tracking him, which is still, well, we're getting a little bit of assistance from normal spotting. Aiming for the track and pen again on the 4211. I was hoping maybe I'd actually blow his ammo rack or something like that. And he ends up getting a shot into us again, which is kind of sad. We get a shot into the Leopard 183 that's sitting at the back. Once again, pulling back very quickly to make sure that we're not going to take a hit ourselves. Then we notice there's a a Brennus, sorry, in the distance. But the FE4211 is the pressing concern. So we get a shot through his drive wheel. And now he's pulled back. We're just going to launch some Hesh through the side of that Brennus. And because it's Hesh, it sets him on fire. And I thought he was AFK, but no. No. He's there. Okay, then. That's why moments of da-da-da-dun, dong. You know, he's alive. He's alive. I thought that Brennus was AFK, so I was just like, oh, this is an easy farm. You know, we get the shot in with Hesh, set him on fire, and then get to farm him. But no, he actually reacted to getting set on fire and went, oh no, I'm burning, and started to run away. But hey ho. We're up to 6.9k damage now with the shutdown on the Brennus, and my team is starting to go in on these two guys that are around this corner. So I'm like, okay, you know what? We're going in. We get a shot into the Leopard. I'm just trying to shut this guy down. He ends up getting finished off by my friend. Now we've got the T72M1. We get a shot into him. He's charging now, though, past my allies. We get the shot off on... Sorry, the shot down into the T72M1, and unfortunately, the Brennus decided that I was the one that's going to die after he was being faced up by those two guys. But we do finish with the victory. Come top on the team. 2 kills, 8.3k damage, 1694 base XP. A pretty decent game for the AMOLAD once again. It's, like I say, it's a pretty decent tank. It's just that there's so much better out there for the price of the... Well, for the cost of it. I would always probably say go for the Chieftain Hybrid 120 instead of this thing. It's not quite for me, to be honest. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!